Today's guest is a friend that I made 15 years ago through the outdoor media world. And when it comes to being a great fisherman, a great hunter, and an all-around great guy, I don't know anybody that fits the bill better than this fella. I'm Brandon Butler.
I'm Nathan Shags McLeod.
I'm Patrick Kalmerton, the guy he's talking about.
Welcome to the Drifted Outdoors podcast. This is going to be a fun one, fellas. I'm excited for this.
Man, after just spending 7 days with a bunch of guys from Wisconsin, I guess I wasn't tortured enough. I had to bring another one back onto the podcast this week.
That's too funny.
I'm the coolest.
Well, and we got to remind you, welcome and thank you for checking us out. And remember to tell a friend, rank, rate, and review on all the podcasting platforms, because that really does help us out to be able to share our content. And we're new to YouTube, so we're asking that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And with that subscription, you're automatically entered into a drawing to win a walleye trip with Driftwood Outdoors and, of course, Chris Nelson, Tandem Fly Outfitters. That would be happening April 19th in the height of Missouri walleye fishing. So you got a chance to go on a pretty epic fishing trip with us. Be sure just to share it with your friends. Let's get this thing growing. We're excited to be on the YouTube platform. It only took us almost 300 episodes of our audio podcast to finally get some video content. But with that being said as well, mark your calendars, February 28th, the end of the month, we will be at Big Rock Candy Mountain for opening day of trout season in Missouri, which of course is always March 1st. But we'll be at the bar recording a podcast in front of a live studio audience, as we like to say. You can sit there. We'll have it going through the PA. We'll be shooting video as well. We got Mark Van Patten on board. I just talked to old Billy Cooper. He's making an appearance. He's coming up from like Mississippi from some waterfowl event just because he's like, I need to defend myself, because he knows how much you like to talk trash on him and give him a hard time. So Bill Cooper will be there. We got a couple of local old-timer legends that will jump on and talk just about everything trout fishing, the history of trout in Missouri, the history of opening day in our trout parks. It's going to be a celebration. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's some lodging still available at Big Rock Candy Mountain, and you can find them in our show notes because we spend a lot of time up there and love that place.
Well, I hope you don't mind, but I have invited another guest to maybe stay at the embassy with us, and that would be Wyatt from the Holler. So I was talking to Amanda and invited the boys to come up, and she doesn't know about Bradley, but Wyatt, you remember how he lives to fish, man.
Oh, yeah.
And he misses us so much, he said. So if I could take that little guy out on opening day of trout season and he's never done it before, expose him to that. So I will gladly sacrifice my fishing to take that fella out on his first opening day. I think he's about 10 now, and that is the best way possible for me to spend my time down there at Montauk.
Now that'll be a lot of fun, and those guys are always welcome at the Polish Embassy. So it'll be cool to see them. I haven't seen them in forever.
I don't think we're going to be able to see them, but they did tell me that they got their invite to the wedding. So how much fun is that going to be, man? I am so excited for it. I also love the fact that you actually thought that Paddle Don and people were having trouble RSVPing when they were just pulling your chain because you put the Lord's name in, you said. Paddle Don was just joking with you. And Savannah's like, yeah, he gave me this whole list of people that just couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, yeah, that's because they were messing with him, trying to register as Paddle Don and everybody with a nickname. So,
well, we got him on there. So
yeah. What's the count going to be? How many people are we looking at?
Like 300.
Did my cousin RSVP?
No, he hasn't yet. Eric did.
Yeah, Derek's kind of slow to technology. I'll make sure he gets it done. So
yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun down there.
I'm glad you invited all of our Indiana brethren.
Deer camp, baby. Deer camp always
Pat,
gets an
you want to
invite.
come? Might as well, right? Everybody's coming. Shags is getting married. He's been engaged for 30 years.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a fun time, man. It's going to be down at Big Rock Candy Mountain where we're doing the event here on the 28th, and everybody will get to fish and float and fellowship. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for getting married so we can all have a party.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's a great place to have a party as well. But we'll see you opening day of trout season. the night before at Big Rock Candy Mountain at their bar. 7 o'clock is when we kick it all off. We'll be there probably around 6 for dinner, but we'll start broadcasting, start recording at 7 p.m. and hope to see you there. And again, subscribe to YouTube. Tell everyone to subscribe to YouTube so you can get entered into that walleye fishing trip.
Thanks to everybody that already did. We went from basically 0 to almost 200 in the first week or so. Huge thanks to Chris Nelson. What a great friend to offer up that trip for us. And if you haven't ever checked out Chris Nelson's Facebook page, Tandem Fly Outfitters, you're going to see these strings of crappie that are going to make you want to really get into this drawing, because after we limit out on walleye, I'm sure we can twist his arm to go out and put a limit of crappie together as well. Well, I did just get back from an incredible trip, Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Wanted to go out there for many, many years. You guys all know my obsession with the yellow perch. Growing up on Lake Michigan, going perching with Grandpa. When I got the invite from my boss, the chairman of our board at Retrieving Freedom, I couldn't turn it down. And what a great opportunity. I mean, first of all, I hope he listens. And if he does, I'm not saying this just because he's listening. I mean, the guy's just best boss I've ever had. I mean, talk about falling into a situation with a mentor that has the knowledge, the demeanor, everything that I needed at this stage of my career to really be coached and led in a direction that I want to go. So I'm very appreciative of him, all of his guidance. Somebody was asking me the other day, well, what's he like? His name is Al Hogan. He used to be a real high up at Polaris. I think he was director of operations for Polaris. So started up there by Lake of the Woods. Pat, what's the name of that town? Starts with an R, Roanoke or something, up by Lake of the Woods in Minnesota. Do you know?
No idea.
Yeah, but you get around. You get around to all those. So, anyways, he's always been up
Rainy
north
Lake.
in Minnesota.
Are you talking about Rainy
No,
Lake?
no.
There's an R.
But anyways, just an incredible businessman, and I compare him to Paulie from Goodfellas. Like, he's real, like, stoic and quiet. He kind of just sits back in the room and observes while everybody else is talking. And he took me up on this trip and introduced me to all of his buddies, and it was just such a great time. And Pat, I was going for that 14-inch yellow perch. I was going to put one on the wall. I wanted to put two on the wall. The fishing was really slow, I guess, comparatively for what Devil's Lake is known for. But I got a 13 and a half, and I was like, okay, that's close enough. But it had a big bite out of its back, like a northern must have got at it. So long story short, I'm going to have to go back to get my mounter fish. But you'll appreciate this, Pat. As I was getting on the plane in Fargo to come back, I'm walking down the aisle and I hear, Butler? And I look down and it's Mike McNett and his whole ice fishing crew. So haven't seen Mike in quite a few years. And the funny thing is I was in I'm going to get all hoity-toity on you now. I was in the Admirals Club waiting for my flight out of Chicago to Fargo on the way there. And two guys come in and it's like, I'm working on my computer. I found my little corner of peace and quiet. And these two dudes look like they're characters from the old Saturday Night Live skits of the super fans for the Bears. Da Bears, da Bears, da Bears. Like just big, loud guys drinking early in the morning. And I'm like, damn it, man. I just can't ever just hide away, And then all of a sudden I hear them talk about ice fishing. And I was like, oh, hey, maybe they're cool, So I'm like, I'm going to Devil's Lake. And they're like, we're going to Devil's Lake. And turned into this whole big thing. Turns out they were in McNett's group. They're all this like USA ice fishing team guys. So they're basically like Olympic ice fishermen. They had 8 dudes and they only caught 10 fish in 3 days. We averaged at least 20 a day for 3 days in a row. Mixed bag of walleye and perch. We ate really good. And most of the guys got to take some fish home with them too. We fished Pelican Lake, which is on the north side. It's all connected, all one big lake, but we were on Pelican and then we were on Devil's Lake. So coming back from that trip, Pat works with Devil's Lake Tourism. Pat is a very well-known ice fisherman. If you open up magazines, you see Devil's Lake advertisements. Pat's usually in those advertisements. He's on pro staff with Clam. Dream come true for me to go up there and chase these jumbos, and I wanted to bring Pat on because out of everyone I know, he's the best ice fisherman who goes to Devil's Lake. And just kind of wanted to get your take on ice fishing to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny that you mentioned that. I graced the cover of Devil's Lake magazine for the winter issue. So we were up there in
Nobody's
May on
surprised
a.
that we're both male models. So
Oh yeah, I mean, look how sexy I am. Are you kidding me? This is you can see the face that goes with this voice. It's just like bam! I'm from every direction.
Well, the last time we were all
no,
together, we spent a lot of money on getting a picture of you half naked next to a mermaid, I believe. That was going to be the Driftwood Outdoors Christmas card.
Yeah, that you did. I thought it was a little weird. I mean, that was for the ladies, and you two bearded men bought it. So that was.
We spent $150 on the rights to that photo. That was back in the drinking days, buddy.
Yeah, we may have had a couple of bourbons and got a little out of control on that auction. That was ridiculous.
But what's funny is Half Naked Pat as a mermaid is only my second favorite photo of him. My first favorite photo of him was taken in Deadwood, South Dakota, when we were out there on a trip, and we were doing the old-timey photo booth. And I'm like a cowboy pointing a gun at the camera, holding a sack of money, and Pat is in a dress next to me, like with his. And unfortunately, that framed photo went up in smoke. So that's a bummer.
That's too bad.
That was a classic, man. You're the prettiest girl I ever had on my side, buddy.
I tell you what, I work out. Anybody that can see me know the 6-pack or 30-pack or whatever you want to call it. I work out. But anyways, going back to ice fishing, yes, I've had the privilege of working out in Devil's Lake for a very long time. I work with all the local guide tourisms, and I bring a lot of different media folk out there, not only ice fishing, but summer fishing, walleye fishing. We've done some shoreline stuff, a lot of waterfall hunting. I spent a lot of time out there. Matter of fact, I will be heading out there in about a month. You guys go dead of the winter, and I wait until it warms up a little bit that those perch are starting to spawn, and I go up into the shallows. Matter of fact, a lot of my time will be up in the Pelican Lake area, and chasing those 15, 16-inch perch, and hopefully the sun makes them eat a little bit more at that point. Devil's Lake gets really cold there in the middle of the winter, and you can still pick at them, and you can still get away. And the entire town is very accommodating as far as anybody coming in. Great food, great drinks, great people all the way through. It's a great time there to talk about the different things that there is to do out there. I mean, obviously you can go fishing, you can go over to the casino, you can go into town, you can go find some breweries, you can go for food, but the fishing is second to none. Way back when, I bet you it was probably 20 years ago, and they asked me where the first place I would go as soon as there's ice, and there's no doubt then, and there's no doubt now, and there definitely will be no doubt in the future. It will be Devil's Lake, because that place is the story behind it. The story behind it, Brandon, is 90% of the story itself, right? So it quadrupled from 1999. All the water is a natural lake that they had to rebuild roads and rebuild marinas, and there's tire farms, and there's combines. I've got pictures of myself jigging down chimneys of farms out there. The fishing is great. The pike fish, the walleye fish. During the summer, I'm telling you, if you get out there, and you'll have to join us sometime in May. Usually we're out there the week before Memorial Day, and you can fish from shore, you can fish from boat, you can fish with cranks, you can fish with bobbers or floats. And if it's too windy, the white bass are up in the canal, just melee on those things. So it's an incredible fishery. It truly is. It's got a real big piece of my heart. So
yeah, man, I can see why I fell in love. I mean, it was super cold, so we didn't get to explore too much, and we didn't stay in Devil's Lake. We stayed in Minnewacan. I've only been up there to meet one guide so far, but I thought he was incredible, and I've got a few different little reels that I'll put up on social media. His name's Aaron McLeod, and he reminds me so much of my friend Kevin Morlock, he's just as much of a fishing professor as he is a guide. And Aaron was so knowledgeable, and I love, I ask a lot of questions. I'm that kid from class where I'm always bugging the teacher. But why? but why? And this dude he walked me through live scope. He walked me through the reason why we were fishing where we were fishing. He told me a lot about the history of the lake, which I want to touch on as well. But first, I got to say, I believe this was the nicest fish camp that I've ever stayed in. They took an old church right there in mini walking distance to the bar restaurant, walking distance to downtown. This is only a couple 100-person town on the west end of the lake. But they took this old church and completely remodeled it. And we had 8 guys in there. Everybody had their own bedroom except for 2 guys. I had a loft that had 6 beds in it. I was like, I'm the youngest guy. I'll be the one that goes up and down the stairs. And I get up there and I had my own like living room, flat screen TV. The kitchen was beautiful. The cabinetry was all custom made. The bathrooms were super nice and clean. I just can't say enough about the work that he did. But I think they're the kind of people where, like, his wife was the mayor of that little town. They've invested heavily in buying these small houses and making them Airbnbs for their clients. And he was just phenomenal. So it's McLeod Outdoors, and that's McQuoid, and Aaron is the owner and the guy you want to talk to. So getting that out of the way, he explained a lot about how the lake expanded. As you said, it's a natural lake, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like historically some of that lake was drained to create more farmland. And
Yes.
we did that in Indiana, where I grew up. That's a thing that happened in the early 1900s, that Mother Nature has a way, man. And Mother Nature has reclaimed that lake. He said that up till somewhere in the 1990s, the average rainfall at Devil's Lake was 8 inches a year. But ever since then, the average has been 22 inches a year. So as Pat said, the lake has quadrupled in size. He said there's 51 farmhouses now underwater. And this isn't like they opened a dam up or anything like that. This is just rain and nature filling this basin. It's very shallow. The deepest part of the lake is 30 feet deep. We fished a lot in like 6 to 10 feet. But then the last day we went out and fished in about 30 feet over a rock pile. And that was our worst day. Like we should have stayed shallow, but he thought there were going to be a lot of perch on that rock pile. And there were. And what was torturous about it was, on that day, we had a different guide, Ryan, who works with Aaron. He brought his live scope in, and we were hitting the fish with our jigs, like dropping it down and literally bumping them. They would not eat. They just wouldn't eat at all. So for like 4 hours, you're playing a video game where you're dropping your jig down, trying to hit the perch with your jig, and they still wouldn't eat. I also learned how to use a Vexilar on this trip. I've never used a flasher before.
Mhm.
So learning how to do that was neat. So the Vexilar is like for anybody that doesn't know, it's a flasher. So it's a circle, and you got the bottom, which is a line here. And then you can see your jig. You raise it up, and there's like 1, 2, 3 foot increments. So you drop your jig all the way down to the bottom, and then you raise it up, drop it back down. And then when a fish starts to raise up, like you can see that line coming. So you raise your jig up, and then that fish is either going to eat it, or it just kind of comes up and looks at it, and then just goes back down to the bottom, which happened way too many times. It was super cool. I mean, so much different than any ice fishing I've ever done. The only thing comparable was going to Lake of the Woods one time with Joe Henry and them guys out of Sportsman's, which was really neat. But we went out to like one ice house and we stayed there all day. This, we moved multiple times. We got out of the ice house. We fished holes. To say I found a new affinity for ice fishing would be an understatement. Like, I think it's like duck hunting. You're in the blind together all day long, and we had 6 holes, maybe 8 in our ice house with 4 guys in it. So you're in there cooking soup on a pot, a pot of soup. We had a TV. We never turned it on though. It was fun, man. It was very much like duck hunting. The camaraderie of it, I loved it. Loved every minute of it.
The only time
Right.
I've got to go ice fishing was actually in Wisconsin, and I played basketball in the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minnesota, and there's a kid on our team that was from Wisconsin, so we crossed over state lines with a 5-gallon bucket, and I remember getting on the ice for the first time. Never been on ice growing up in Oregon, and hearing it boom and crack. And I panicked and screamed and jumped back onto the bank like a Superman dive and landed face first in the snow embankment. And I could hear the laughter muffled through all the snow that my face had buried itself into. And I got it. They're like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I was falling through. Didn't you hear it cracking?" Like, "No, that's what it does, man." And we went out there, and I'm 6'8". So I was like medium height. We never went from like 7 foot to maybe 6'5", sitting on 5-gallon buckets with the flag set up. And we all agreed whoever got to the popped up flag first got to reel in the fish, got to hand line it in. So it was just a bunch of massive dudes in their late teens, early 20s, like knocking each other on the ice, sliding past to try to get to it. And we had a great time out there. But boy, and you couldn't even drink beer just sitting on that ice in a 5-gallon bucket. The can would literally freeze to your lip. It is cold out there without any type of shelter.
Man, your 6'8" humble brag doesn't impress me and Pat, because if I got on his shoulders, we'd be 6'9".
Yeah, there, take that, Shags.
So what part of Wisconsin are you from? What part of Wisconsin do you live in?
Right now I'm on the south part of the state. The charter boats the salmon boats are over on the east side of the state. We have cabins up in northern Wisconsin. So I'm kind of all over the place. Lake Michigan, I fish the tributaries too. I fish a lot of the Mississippi River, Wisconsin River, a lot of inland lakes. So it's just a constant.
So talk about Wolf Pack Adventures.
Oh, man. So Wolf Pack Adventures is a series of multiples that offer a entertainment way of fishing, right? You don't hire a guide or you don't go out on Lake Michigan just for the fish. You can go to this grocery store and buy a salmon, right? You want to come up to the Wisconsin area, get on Lake Michigan, watch the sunrise, the sunset, be on a mass body of water that's 900 miles long by 65 miles wide at 900 feet deep. So this thing is a lot of water, a lot of moving water. She can have some hair on her teeth. I mean, that little lady can get pissed off real fast out there. So you gotta know exactly what you're doing. You gotta respect her. Lake Michigan is something that I grew up on. It was one of them where when I was growing up, my father had a little boat that we went out and browned and goofed around when we could. And 12 years old was when I made my first dollar in the fishing industry. And so that 30 some years ago, over 30. And I've been just kind of playing on her since. It's been crazy. Are we live? I don't even know what that was.
No, we're not live. I don't know what that
We're learning as we go, man. We're learning as we go.
Right.
There it is again.
There it is again. Hey. Randy, I think you're putting a little bubble in the thumb by yourself. You're like, hey, I'm super cool.
I'm not touching anything. It's just reading my mind, Pat. It knows how much I appreciate what you're saying.
Brandon can't handle not talking for that long. He's got to get in. He's got to get in there somehow.
Well, I knew I was up against it when Pat came on for sure.
Oh yeah. So, anyways, Lake Michigan, been charter fishing ever since. Man, I couldn't tell you how many shows, how many writers, how many guests, how many farmers from Iowa, how many, bearded folk from Missouri, how many, the gun guys. It doesn't matter where you're from in the United States or in the world. I've had the privilege of fishing alongside with, anybody and everybody, from sports athletes to people designing dresses for the red carpet, Herbie Kohler and his son David. And I mean, I've had everywhere from the very top to the very bottom, and I treat every single one of them the same because I don't care. You're going out and we're going to go fishing, and it's a good time. And so we have multiple boats out of Shags, Wisconsin. We have 3 boats out there. We have anywhere from a 28-foot Baja, 32-foot 10-meter or Trojan, and then we have a 38-foot Cozumel. We have a couple of walleye boats, so 2350s go fast, the ones that make your asshole pucker when they're, you jump on that throttle and then she goes, wow, and she starts screaming. So those are a good time. So I fish all over the place there, fishing gear and spin fishing gear. So Brandon, you've joined us on Now's already, where we've been up and done some fly fishing and spin cast fishing up on the river system for big salmon. We've ice fished the Milwaukee Harbor and the tributaries too. That's something. If you've never done ice fishing in your life, if you're in Wisconsin and obviously it's one of them specialized things where you're fishing world-class brown trout and steelhead through the ice. You have the ice fishing world, but yet the hustle and bustle of the world behind you as far as the horns and the sirens and everything else. And then you add on top of that the water slapping on the rocks and the seagulls screaming, and it's an overload of everything nature has to offer, right? So it's one of them where it's an incredible experience.
So Shags is from Oregon, right on the Columbia River. So he's got a lot of experience fishing salmon out there. But correct me if I'm wrong, you've never caught a Great Lakes salmon.
No.
So I feel like that's something that we need to rectify. We need to get you
Oh
up there.
yeah, you guys need to come up. I'm telling you what, we're just, matter of fact, earlier today I was talking to Jared Higginbotham over at Yakima, and he's going to be sending cut plugs up there and everything else, because like earlier I was telling you, I just accepted a national sales position for Relevant Sunglasses and Mad Scientist lures, and they have a coating that goes over these lures. So we're going to be plotting this year. You guys need to come play. Definitely need to come up and play.
So he explained to him. So his salmon fishing experience is a lot different than what we do on the Great Lakes. Now I've only salmon fished with you in the Sheboygan River with a fly rod, but I've done some salmon fishing in on the south shore of Lake Michigan, downriggers and stuff. So explain a little bit how you pursue the salmon out of Sheboygan there.
Well, I'll tell you what. Up until last year, it's always been downriggers, lead core, copper, sea divers, everything else. And, you're putting a spread all the way from, say, 9 lines to 18, 20 lines at a time. And you're spreading them out. You're getting, offshores off to the sides, and you're doing it with big equipment. But last year we changed the bill and we went to your style of fishing, So Jared from Washington, he fishes over by the buoys a lot, and they're running a lot of the pump handles. And we did that for the Coho Derby. And everybody, let me tell you a story about the Coho Derby last year. Yes. So I'm very proud. I'm extremely proud of it. As a matter of fact,
I was hoping this would come up because I was going to ask. I remember seeing some pictures from that derby that you were posting on social media. That was pretty exciting.
Oh, we beat the hell out of them. It was great. It was great. So we wanted to prove West Coast fishery would work in the Great Lakes, right? So what happened was Dennis from Wild Fish Wild Places, his cameraman, and them jumped in the truck with Jared Higginbotham and his son Hunter, and they pulled a 3-foot boat from Washington all the way across the country to Wisconsin. And they got to Wisconsin, and here's a open boat, right, that has 6 captain chairs, 6 plastic rod holders, and that's it. So we got there a couple of days early. You could turn fast amongst all the boats and get positioning and everything else. Lake Michigan is extremely clear because quagga mussels and zebra mussels and all that other good stuff that has that body of water so clear that what we wanted to do is we wanted to come into my backyard where I work for a living and know everybody and prove to them that West Coast fishery is going to work. And people laughed at us and they joked at us and everything else. And we went out there and we didn't catch crap. I mean, I think we had one fish that big. And I posted a thing that said, Coho Derby 2024, here we go. So over time, what we did was also we started getting a pattern. And we were adamant that we were going to do nothing but run all Yakima baits. Everything from the new cut plug to the, all the way across the board, mag lips and stuff like that. So what we did was we were in the spin fish, and the spin fish, it's a cut plug. So you open it up and you put the tuna on the inside with the oil. So it has a residual oil coming off. And then we had scent, and we put tuna belly and tuna blood and all that other good stuff from the scent companies and all that. And then we put in there. It boggled my mind because Jared, I mean, we're charter fishing every day. We have all the spoons. We throw them on the back. We scrub the boat. We got bleach water. Everybody, I mean, there's stuff everywhere. Nothing is clean. Nothing is dry. I mean, but these guys are so immaculate. They're wearing gloves when they're baiting the cut plugs. And I'm like, just throw the Throw it in there. Let's go. I personally learned so much on the salmon sense and how well their smell is and how they find themselves home, in the river system and everything else. And we ran it from zero to hero because by the end of that tournament, we ended up having the first place brown trout, the second place king that we had for a long time. We had I think it was second or third place rainbow trout. We ended up taking third overall in the super tournament. Director, that if we placed in the top three, he'd be back there. So I think he's got to come back across the United States boat again so we can kind of go after the win. But I already said, if you're not bringing your boat all the way across, I got a whole fleet of boats that we could jump on one of those and go after them. But
it's a whole different ball game, though, isn't it? Like just the boat setup to the lure action to everything to chase those salmon back home is wild. Yep.
Yeah, everything about it, and what we were doing, and what was extremely effective. And I know that Jared took this back over to the river as well. Is offshore planer boards. The big offshore planer boards, the bigger ones, and that way we could spread out our presentation and get them out away from the boat a little bit and vary our depths a little bit more, and that was extremely effective for us. Absolutely.
Yeah, they take that scent real serious. Yeah, everybody's out there with their surgical gloves, and you don't mix and match or anything. Everything is scrubbed clean before it's put away, and those cup plugs are super effective though, because you can just cram them with all sorts of different bait and scents, and it's pretty wild.
Us Wisconsin guys, I mean, we've never to that extent. I mean, I've charter fished out there for 30 years, and I've never put on a surgical glove to go after a salmon. In Wisconsin here, it's all entertainment aspects. So they put those salmon in for us to take. So in 1967, what happened is they took the freshwater fish, which was salmon, to the Great Lakes. And the reason being is all the alewives were washing ashore and stinking up the beaches. And with the predominant west wind, we didn't have much of an issue, but Michigan side had a terrible issue with all the alewives washing up to shore and then all that stink blowing inland. And that, I mean, man, rotten fish on beaches stink. And they were taking, bulldozers and scraping these things up and throwing them in landfills. So they had to do something. What they did was they introduced the coho salmon, and then they continued to introduce fish. And now we have some natural reproduction coming out of the Michigan area. We have some coming out of, not many, most of them is still put and tick, but we're getting there. What else we like to fish?
A few of the steelhead rivers, like the Pere Marquette or Morlocks at, that's a naturally reproducing steelhead fishery, and the salmon are up in there as well. So now, do you guys do much steelhead fishing, Pat?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, spring and during the fall. So with the steelhead, a lot of times what will happen is during the spring, February, March, as soon as that ice is out, we'll be steelhead fishing with great big deep red, on the sides and everything else, and up to 20 pounds up in our river systems and stuff like that. End of September through mid-October is your salmon run, and there'll be a mix within there. Towards the latter end of that is when some of if you hit it just right, you can get your grand slam. So you can have your lake trout, your brown trout, your rainbow trout, your coho salmon, and your king salmon. You can get all 5 species in the river systems at one time. And then when the kings start dying off, because what happens is their natural reproduction, they stop eating, right? So they die from the inside out because they don't eat. So it just kind of rots from the inside out, and they become real black zombie fishing, people call it. And then they'll just lay shoreline. And right after that, what happens is your cohos, real big hook-jawed, deep red striped cohos, up to 13, 15 pounds will come up into the river system, and they'll be there all the way through mid-November, which is always that second or third weekend in November is the best coho fishing in the river systems. And as soon as they start coming down and laying their eggs, then their steelhead browns will start coming up. And what they're doing is they're looking for the residual eggs and stuff. And they're all the way through the ice season. So The river systems from September, all the tributaries to Lake Michigan from September usually until about mid-March-ish is going to be the best as far as fly fishing, spin cast fishing, ice fishing, stuff like that. And then all summer from April, and then you get into the April where it's all skinny water. So you get out there and I would say 20 foot or less for your brown trout. That fishery is the most accessible to the fishing people or the people that just have walleye gear, the ones that like the long lining, their mag lips and their thunderstick and reef runners, anything like that, salmos, anything that has a little bit of vibration. Those browns are in that shallow stuff. Once they start moving out, then your cohos start moving up from the southern part of the state. So your coho fishing is really good from that end of April through about mid-May through about beginning of July to mid-July is going to be out deep. That's out, that real, we're going out 18, 20 miles looking for slicks up on top of the water. We're in 300-400 feet of water fishing in the top 15 feet water column because those fish are up and they're eating off the scum lines and everything else. And then we transition back into the salmon, and then we start making some real big hauls as far as heavy coolers, a lot of big salmon.
Talk a little bit about how much Lake Michigan has changed just in our lifetimes. I mean, when I was a kid, we were smelting, perching, like with the gobies and the zebra mussels and all the, people don't realize Lake Michigan's like a petri dish of invasives. There's so much going on. Even the salmon, the steelhead. Talk about the changes.
Absolutely. So back in, the 60s when obviously I wasn't around, but when they put the salmon, to start this fishery, you could go out there and these fish were hungry in the early 80s, and it was dirtier water, so you could throw anything at them and they're going to eat. They really didn't know. They didn't have the technology that we have now. They didn't have the equipment that we have now. So riggers, they had the deep sixes. They had deep sixes and Lucky Birds and stuff like that dove real deep, and then the Dipsy divers came out. And then they started getting into the lead balls, and with the lead balls, they had the whistle weights. Where if a fish would hit the bait, it would pull a pin, and the weight would drop, and then you'd be able to reel that fish in. Well, since then, it's become illegal to use that because you can't drop lead to the bottom of the water column. So, after the whistle, the lead core came, and lead core is actually the line that has a lead. It's a lead core, right? So there's lead going through all the way through the line, and every color is 5 feet. So if you're running 3-color lead core, you're going down, 15 feet. And it doesn't hold true, obviously, if you go faster or slower, and there's different weights of lead core and everything else. But every color is basically 5 feet, easy math. That's the way that we do it. Then after core started slowing down, and again, you were talking about the zebra mussels eating all the plankton and all the algae and everything else. So if the zebra mussels is eating the food base of the minnows and everything else, everything starts clearing up, and your alewives and your schmelt and everything starts staying out deeper, looking for the mid-lake reefs and stuff like that. And your schmelt fishing. When I was a kid, we would be in the river system, and we could, strain the shoreline. We could dip net. We all had our own contraption where you stand on the platform, you pull a string, and this arm with the dip net that came down, and you could fill buckets of them. And they're now they're doing that a lot up in Superior again, and we're actually starting to see them come back into the shorelines of Lake Michigan as well. Not to the numbers that they were, but they're certainly starting to make an appearance again. But that water clarity continues to get better and better and better. So it's so clear that you can be in 30 feet of water, and you look down into the water, and you think that you're going to hit a rock, and that rock is still 20 feet down. It is that crystal clear. So instead of running down riggers now, because when the rigger comes through, so when you have 3-4 downriggers in the water, and you're coming down and you're straining that water, now it's leaving a path of bubbles behind you from that wire. then what people started doing is they started going copper, which is an actual copper wheel, or it's a copper line, and we're running anywhere from 100 to 500 feet of copper, going all the way back. Well, when a 500-foot copper takes off, I don't want to reel it in. I don't. It's not fun for me. I don't want my customers to do it. So what we ended up starting doing is going to, the West Coast area where we're going. History repeats itself, right? We think that we're advanced, but really what we're doing is we're dumbifying everything down to what they did back in the 70s. It's the exact same. I mean, honestly, when you stop and you really think about it, we are doing exactly what they did back then. And like anything, history repeats itself. Look at the clothing fad right now. People that are, coming out with new clothes. It looks like the hottest cars on the market is what they look like in the 60s and 70s. So if you want to be extremely successful, go back to the 70s and 80s and look what they were doing. And you'll be the next big thing coming through this industry. I mean, it's true though.
Do you guys have a good yellow perch population that far north?
Not on Lake Michigan itself, but the Bay of Green Bay is exploding. Matter of fact, If you go to a Wolf Pack Adventures page or some of our captains like Jordan and stuff like that, I mean, just the other day they had a 16, I think it was a 16 and a half inch perch that they pulled out and a bunch of 15. Wow. Matter of fact, you were talking Devil's Lake. I was just talking to Zippy Dollo out there from Perch Patrol, and he's like, man, all I hear about is Devil's Lake. And it's like anything, it's like anything. When I hear about the tarpon fishing down in Florida.
You mean the guy from Devil's Lake only hears about Green Bay? Is that what you meant to say?
Yeah, it's like anything. I mean, up here in Wisconsin, all I hear about is tarpon fishing down in Punta Gorda because I don't have it in my backyard. So I'm going to go down there end of April, beginning of May. Here we go.
Maybe we'll put some tarpon in Lake Michigan. Why not?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think I might put a couple of my area.
There you go.
We need some golden Dorado out there floating around too.
You mentioned Green Bay. Now, I was up there recently. What a beautiful area, man. Drove all the way out to the end of the peninsula there in Door County. And that was the first time I've been out on the peninsula. It was gorgeous. But I learned that there's a really good muskie population in Green Bay as well. Have you ever been up to do that?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I used to fish the muskies up out of Green Bay, and I realized that I'm not a muskie fisherman. But, I was just having a conversation with Brett Alexander, and he's up in the Green Bay area. I'd be lying if I told you he wasn't the best that I know of out there. That is insane when it comes to 50-inch muskie and fish up on the Bay of Green Bay. I mean, he is the deal when it comes to muskie fishing up there. So if I go up there muskie fishing, I'll Brett a call. But
what makes you not a muskie fisherman now?
Patience.
Going back to the squirrel on a branch, man. I mean, you put me in the middle of a room with nothing to do, and I can promise you I'm going to break something, even though there's nothing in there to break. I'll probably break something on myself. I used to fish, the Midwest Muskie Classic, and I can't sit in a boat for 3 days for hoping for that one bite, or no. I gotta be futzing with something. I gotta be moving. I gotta be doing something. Fly fishing is fun. Bobber fishing is one of my favorites. I don't care if it's a 4-inch perch. I don't care. I'm doing something. I'll tell you what, right now, I know that you guys are promoters, so am I, and I write articles, but I can't tell you the last time I read an article because I don't have the patience to sit down to read it. Don't have it. I'm terrible for the industry I'm in because I'm supposed to be promoting it. I got a library full of books bought from buddies, and someday somebody will read them. I promise you.
That's why you just got to do this, man. You just got to start podcasting. It's so much easier than sitting down and writing. You just sit and start telling stories.
And honestly, Shags, I've been adamant about this, and you guys have all the equipment, but honest to God, I have been 100% adamant that I want to start a website. Maybe I got to talk to you guys. I want to start a website instead of having a podcast where we're jumping all over the place, actually talking about one thing. I want to actually have an audio article where instead of me writing an article, I just babble on about it, and then you lose me after 3 minutes.
So I don't know
And
what
just
made me
and
think
just
about
do
this. We're talking about you not reading your books, and it made me think maybe like Braille would be your option. But when we were, Bobby Whitehead, well, remember
oh god.
the Bob father? We were down in Cape Girardeau for a conference. Shags was there, and the Bob father was there. And he's unfortunately nearly blind now. He's not doing well with his sight, but he said he wanted to go to a strip club. And we said, like, Bobby, why would you go to a strip club if you're not even able to see? And then I said, well, maybe they'll institute like Braille at the strip club for Bobby. So there's always a way, man.
No touching the dancers, but I'm blind.
Right.
That's the only way he knows what they would look like is by
Right.
touching the face. And
Like the strip club for the seeing impaired. I think we're on to something here, man.
You know what I think we should do? If it is Bobby in the front row, have Shags go up there and have him feel the faces.
Rub his beard on him.
Wait a minute. You guys took me to the wrong one.
that's too funny. Hey, let me ask you really quick, because I know this has been a very hot topic here in Missouri. A lot of people upset with our department and their handling over CWD, but Wisconsin comes up a lot with CWD and deer hunting. Can you give us any type of on the boots type of update, or are you seeing a lot of it?
Yeah, absolutely. They talk about it. I shoot and I eat. Period.
That's
The way
interesting.
I see it. I mean, it's one of them things where I have never had it tested. I have a gaggle of children. They eat it. I eat it. None of us turned alien yet. So I don't know. I know some people out there, they have it tested. If it comes back positive, they new buck tag and you go out and you shoot another one. And, I don't know enough about it, Shags. Honestly, I know that there's a lot of rumbling, but they've been rumbling for 30 years. So I aim, I shoot, I eat.
Yeah, that's interesting because we were talking about it on this trip to Devil's Lake, and that was the same answer those guys gave, is that they're not concerned with it. But man, I just can't. I mean, Mad Cow made the jump. It's like winning the lottery. I'm just saying the odds are like winning the lottery. If you were the first person that it jumped from, and we know that the disease exists in humans, it's Creutzfeldt-Jakob's disease, and then you've got mad cow disease, you've got scrapies in sheep, and CWD in deer. It's really hard to listen to the people clamoring on Facebook about it who truly don't know what they're talking about. I mean, who would have thought, like on Facebook, people are saying things that are just ridiculous and they don't know what they're talking about. So to hear you say that, to say like, it just doesn't bother me, that's one way to approach it. But to say the government's lying, to say that it's not a problem, like all you got to do is read studies. I mean, there's parts of Wisconsin, there's parts of Wyoming, there's parts of Colorado where, there are already well-established documented population declines in the area. Well, that's because deer are dead from predators and car accidents. When they start stumbling around, it's the weakest in the herd that goes first. So I'm not going to eat it, man. And I'm not certainly going to feed it to my kids. One, because I'm blessed to be in a financial situation in a country where, I have options. If we were starving, sure, I would give it a shot, roll the dice, but I'm on the other side of that one. So I think it's horrible. I think, I think there's ways to go about dealing with it that work and ways that don't. And I think the ways that work, which is isolating the positives through a reduction in population, I think that sucks for everybody. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to see, these deer go away. But these same guys that are, complaining, they have no sense of memory as to how much the population has grown in the last 3 decades. I mean, our grandfathers never saw deer in the Midwest. If they got one, it was a little forkhorn, and they, were thrilled. They were the talk of the town in the 1950s, 1960s. And now guys are killing, trophy deer every year, and they still complain. Like,
Well, I really I want to get the new deer biologist on here to talk to him about it, because I do want something that I can be in the comments and put a link of like, hey, here is some of your questions answered. But I can see, honestly, some of the hypocrisy of people being upset because in a CWD zone in Missouri, you're not allowed to put corn out or anything like that, because they say then, the prion stays in the ground and then that area will be contagious. But now MDC does put corn on the ground to get deer to thin out the CWD herds. So there are some things that I totally kind of understand how the public would be a little upset. I would trust our biologists over somebody named Rick on Facebook and his social media biology. There's even people talking about follow the money. The insurance companies have been paying the state of Missouri to thin out our deer herds so they don't have to pay deductibles anymore in car accidents.
Well, look, that conspiracy theory, there's some truth to that. Unfortunately, I'm not saying MDC's ever taken money from the insurance companies, and they certainly haven't, is what I would believe. But that doesn't mean insurance companies don't have a team of lobbyists trying to get more and more deer killed. When I worked in the Indiana DNR executive office, that was true. Insurance companies aren't hiding the fact that they would be happy if all deer were dead. And not all farmers feel that way, but a lot of farmers would like to see a significant reduction in deer population as well, because those deer are consuming their dollar bills. I mean, that's very understandable as well. So again, like, there are aspects here that those guys are not wrong about. It's just the way they go about it. The whole like MDC's corrupt and MDC wants to eliminate every deer. Like that's because they don't know the people that work at MDC. Like, I take it personally because Jason Sumners is my friend.
Yeah.
Jason Isabel is my friend. Like, those guys are salt of the earth, huge sportsmen. They love deer as much or more than you. In fact, they made a career out of it. So while you're out digging ditches, pretending like you know what you're talking about when it comes to the biology of a white-tailed deer, saying that Jason Sumners doesn't know shit. Jason Sumners has multiple degrees in deer biology, has studied deer all over the country, was the first person to get the call in 2012 when we had a positive. Thank you very much to the captive deer industry for bringing it here and spreading it all across our country. So when you attack my friend, I take it pretty personal. And it's just ignorant to say that MDC doesn't care. MDC is trying to eliminate our deer. Say it sucks. Say you hate it. Say it's something you're not going to participate in. I can get behind that because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
But when you start attacking these people personally, then you're just an asshole. And then I don't like you.
My favorite is the MDC is the worst agency in America.
It's
that
the
one
best.
That's what cracks me up, is that other states wish they had our Department of Conservation, but then we have people that graduated from the School of Hard Knocks, Brandon. They got plenty of degrees.
But those people, okay, I can excuse those people because they're smart enough to put that on. I got made fun of for going to college. I sent a text out like, I will not engage the mouth breathers. I will not engage the mouth breathers. I will not engage the mouth breathers. Fuck! Because I had to put a post out there to defend my friends. And then sure enough, it set off a firestorm of comments because one person came to their bash on MDC party and actually spit some facts, which I did get into some private messaging with some intelligent people who disagree. But then there's the guy, who went to the School of Hard Knocks and had to post all the shit about my cabin and tried quoting me on how I hate everybody in Southern Missouri. And I just want to make it clear, like, I don't hate everybody in Southern Missouri. I love most people in Southern Missouri. I just hate you. I just hate you and people like you.
This is going to be a clip.
Boy, did you piss him off, Shags.
And I just want to know what you thought, Pat.
Great topic, Shags. Now you got to go. Hey, popcorn break.
It's infuriating.
Look at you.
To
You're
watch
about
these
to
people
blow up, man. You're bright red.
These people who devote their lives to trying to make the recreational opportunities for all of us better. And they just get attacked by these people that don't know anything about what they're talking about. Some of them are highly intelligent people who kill monster bucks every year. Like,
oh, yeah.
They kill big bucks every year. Bucks that if my uncle would have killed one in the 80s, everybody would have come over to see it. But now they're so commonplace that it's just this year's buck. So like, what do you want? Do you want 300-inch deer? Well, then go pay 20 grand and go into a high fence place and kill one of those mutants. What are your expectations of deer hunting? How could it get much better than what we have? Like, I don't understand it. And it's infuriating. And when you attack these people, you're just exposing yourself for who and what you are.
Well, and I think too, us being non-Missourians, like we've lived in multiple different states. We've seen different agencies, and we know that Missouri is the example. Like we have an amazing Department of Conservation. You can disagree with some of the tactics, but to come on there and just say that worst agency, defund the agency, bunch of idiots, no one knows what they're doing. They're all stealing money. Like, some of the allegations are so wild. And again, Pat, sorry, we want to talk ice fishing with you, and I derailed this, but I do think we need to get one of the people on there, because
I should have used my safe word, Pat. He knew he was going to trigger me.
But I just want to have an episode to where now I don't go.
No,
it was kind of like when we got Canada on, when people were talking about trying to start a petition to outlaw treble hooks on Taneycomo, and then we just had Canada on talking about how that is ridiculous, and I just put links to our podcast with them and all the comment threads, because people are starting to tag me in it, going, you need to do something about this. And I'm like, I'm not getting into pissing matches.
We've got Tony Kalna coming up in a couple of weeks, and Tony has been, running the Missouri Big Bucks for 30 or 40 years. He's a foremost authority of deer hunting in Missouri, and I'm just really interested in his take on how things have progressed and how things have changed. Like, we know people that are 80 years old that talk about when they took school buses out to see a deer track, and how much has happened in the 85 years of the existence of MDC. I mean, we went from an estimated 400 deer to where we are today, which is an estimated 1.3 million. So to say that we don't have it good is just crazy. Like I said, there are aspects of the argument that I agree with, just like what you just said. There are aspects that are questionable and that I agree with. But when it becomes a personal attack on these people who have devoted their lives to trying to increase your opportunities and increase your ability to enjoy nature in Missouri, that's where I come unglued, because they can't defend themselves. They're, these are state employees. They can't come on here and say the things that we're saying, no matter how many attacks they take. And, they don't make a ton of money as state employees. They're just doing this because they love it more than you. They love it enough to where they made their career out of it. So when you think you know more, you just don't. Like, again, there are incredible deer hunters out there that kill monster bucks every year, and they're still unsatisfied. And what do you do about that? Like, it'd be like if Scrooge McDuck was swimming in his vault of gold and complained about not having enough money. It's crazy.
So, Pat, what's your favorite ice jig? What's your go-to jig to catch a walleye through the ice?
Well, I tell you what, it was proven last year. Matter of fact, that thing was dynamite. It actually saved our trip, and we were catching bass, we were catching perch, and we were catching walleyes, all of them on there. And that
I hope the next time I go out to Devil's Lake, I'm with you, man. That way you don't have to say.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's what I want to do. You just said 16 inchers. I'm in. Like, I'll go back this year. I just got my ice suit from Clam.
Did they send you one?
Yeah,
you got one?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it here in our gear review. But I want to go back, dude. I want to go with you.
All right, we can make that happen. I'll tell you what. One thing about those is, when I've never had a sunglass that I could actually wear at 70 miles an hour in a boat going across water and not worry about being able to read my electronics, because a lot of sunglasses that you wear, your electronics turn black, right? It drowns it out. Safety issue. And when I was doing one of these to, take my glasses up so I could read the structure on the graph, and I'm doing 70 miles an hour, I realized it wasn't safe for me to be doing that. So I switched over to Relevant and a couple of years ago, started wearing them, loving them, polarized glass, can read my electronics, can read my phone when I'm doing things. And those there, when you're running and doing that, they're awesome. So now that I'm employed by them, what I'm saying is we need to go out there, put it on there and get that favorite slab spoon from Mad Scientist in your hands to play with.
Do they fit dudes with huge heads? I always have a hard time finding polarized glasses that aren't all bowed out on the sides.
I think all
you
three
know
of us would
what?
have a hard time.
You're the second guy today that asked me if we had an extra large frame that will fit people, because Jared's probably 6'11", so I think that's something. If you go back, matter of fact, I don't know if you've seen the reel where I'm giggling uncontrollably about the guy that has his head sticking out my sunroof. Devil's Lake. So I picked him up. I purposely made him ride with me in my little Ford hatchback, little white Ford hatchback, and we had to stuff him in. I mean, it was like 10 pounds of shit into a 5. So by the time I got done shoving him into the front seat, and he is giggling, and then I stopped at Hardy to piss him off even more by going through the drive-thru when it was raining, and his head was sticking outside the sunroof. Yeah, it was crazy.
Welcome to the podcast.
You guys are famous. You're famous now.
Yeah.
Are you still working with Shore Lunch?
Yeah, no. So SC Mills was bought, right? So I don't do much with Shore Lunch anymore. And my main sponsors are going to be Devil's Lake, North Dakota Tourism. I work a lot with Riverbend Resort up on Lake of the Woods, doing things up there a lot. I do some stuff with Lois down in Punta Gorda, down in Florida, enjoying the tarpon fishing, kayaking for manatees and dolphins and stuff. And then I work a lot with Clam, Relevant, Mad Scientist, Yakima, Red Wing Boots, just kind of playing around all over the place. And then, then we get into the turkey calls and, Oak Ridge and all that other stuff, turkey calls, and just kind of playing. I play a lot.
All right. We bought 6 boxes of it up there, and I just think it's the best fish breading out there.
Did you use the original, or did you mix the original with the Cajun?
So the guys mixed it with the Cajun, but I just like the original. So I had my own original batch.
I'm telling you, some people.
Well, since your kids are getting home and we can start but before we get you out of here, what we got
Body built by cheese curds.
The mystery bait bucket. It's a vintage antique bait bucket that is full of questions submitted by listeners of the podcast. So you can ask a question in the comments. You can also send us a message on Facebook or Instagram, Driftwood Outdoors, or email info@driftwoodoutdoors.com. It's a fun way to kind of wrap up the podcast. Very rarely does it have anything to do with the outdoors. It's just a fun random question. This one comes from Amber Lewis. If you had to give a 10-minute presentation on something with no preparation, what topic would you choose?
Well, I had to dig my computer out, and you guys were ripping on me about the motor running in the back of it. What in the hell am I going to do with a computer and a screen? Do you have like a chalk or a easel with a big piece of paper? And she laughed at me just like you guys are. I have to go buy one because I don't know how to do it. PowerPoint.
Wolf Pack Adventures needs an IT department.
Huh?
Oh.
I said Wolf Pack Adventures needs an IT department.
I think you need to come up and do some seminars on CWD. We'll enjoy that one. Grab a bucket of beers, boy, get good.
It's not the CWD. It's the people who think they know more than the people that actually have devoted their life to it. That's, it's just it's the people who will say things on social media, won't say it to their faces. I just can't stand.
Somebody's getting punched in the.
Yeah, man. The social media cowards.
Freaking
social media cowards.
He is as red as his shirt.
God.
Oh my God, look at him. We just got done boiling a damn lobster.
It's the old crawdaddy, the shrimp boil.
I'm not in the arena.
Hey,
shut your mouth.
You know what? Hey, actually take a picture of his face. Let's go up to the cabin. We'll have a crawfish boil We'll put them side by side and see who's left.
Hey, dude, you
Yeah,
better
who
slow
wore it
down.
better?
I was just telling Shags how I have too much respect for you to release the mermaid picture, but you keep talking trash, and we might have a Christmas card.
I'm sweating. I'm laughing so hard. Oh my goodness. I mean, mine is so ridiculous. It'd probably just be fishing. I've done it before, Pat. I'm kind of like you. I don't really prepare a lot when asked to speak at events. I can like, oh yeah, I'll just go up there and kind of wing it. I feel pretty comfortable. If you need 10 minutes to talk about trout fishing in Missouri, I could definitely pull that off. Well, do we have a final thought? The final cast of the pod?
Well, Pat's definitely a better sportsman than he is a computer controller. So he's, in all seriousness, when he went off and started riffing about how to fish those salmon on the Great Lakes and ripping out all that terminology, I mean, I hope everybody got a little bit of a picture as to like how deep this dude's knowledge really is about fishing, hunting. That's what's cool, man. Like you can drop them on Devil's Lake in North Dakota. You can put them on Lake Michigan, take them up, put them in Turkey Woods, on a waterfall marsh, deer blind. Pat's just one of those guys that can do it all. And I just have so much respect for the woodsmanship, the ability to, not only enjoy it, but convey it to other people. You're a great teacher, buddy, and just a great friend too. So yeah,
And
look
he's a
up
lot of fun.
Wolf Pack Adventures. Get up there and catch some of those salmon with Pat and his brother.
We'll put all the information in the show notes with the links to the website and all the social media as well. We really appreciate you being on here, buddy. It was good to catch up, and I look forward to going out and doing some fishing with you real soon.
Yeah, fishing, turkey hunting's coming. March 17th, I think the leftover turkey tags go on sale here in Wisconsin. So go get some of those and come on up.
Which unit do I need to get?
Zone 1.
Unit 1.
Yeah,
okay.
Zone 1. Yeah, Zone 1. March 17th,
I'm 0 for 1 on Wisconsin turkeys, so I need to.
Well, we're gonna fix that. Give it a couple of days, come forth the first season. We'll go catch some bluegills, maybe go over and do some salmon fishing. Maybe run up to Green Bay. If it's early enough, maybe go over onto the river and beat up on some bluegills and crappies over on the river. But now that I'm doing this, man, I'm ready to roll. I have, after taking 7 years hiatus or 8 years hiatus out of the industry because of my kids and having to be home every day, doing that. They're old enough now, and I'm ready to roll. And like I said, Relevant and Mad Scientist gave me the opportunity to get back after it. So here we go. Get ready, boys, because it's coming.
Well, that is another hard plug I want to give you, man. You're a great dad. I mean, you're a really good dad, and that's important. So that's cool.
So here's the thing. If you go to Pat Kalmerton Outdoors or Pat Kalmerton on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, there are a plethora of pictures and everything else. I got hacked a couple of years ago, 2000 and whatever, and lost all my connections on Facebook. So what I did is I started another one. It's called Take Them Kids Outdoors. And it was doing nothing but memories of my kids out there. And other people started posting on it. And now it's a ton of different posting their stories on their kids and just the experiences that they have and different articles and different things. And it's Take Them Kids Outdoors. And it's that thing kind of is a lot of fun just to play around and watch it and be involved with it.
I will put that link in the show notes as well, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I truly do, because it's one of them where, again, I started to record everything that I'm doing with my kids, but then everybody started posting what they're doing with their kids, and it's as gratifying to watch that as it is taking my own, because I tell you, it's anytime that you can get them outside.
All right, man. Well, thank you. Gear review coming up next. Brandon,
thank you.
Into the podcast, the beginning of the gear review. What are you reviewing for us today?
I got all my new clam gear. I'm not going to put the suit on. We'll save that. But, I worked through Pat, got to Abby. She hooked it up, man. I'm excited. I was up there looking like a hobo in all my hunting gear. But now I got the ice armor. I've got the big blue suit. I'm styling, Pat. I'm ready to be an ice fishing male model right beside you. So we need to.
You look good.
You look like a hockey goalie with them gloves on.
These gloves are amazing. I mean, they are about $79.99. That's what the tag says on them. I had wet, cold hands and old camouflage hunting gloves, just cotton gloves when I was up there. I was looking like a guy they picked up on the side of the road somewhere. I am ready to become an ice fisherman now, and I'm all team clam. So thank you very much to them. And, you know, knowing Dave Gins just briefly when we got to tour it through a glow and knowing how that company started and their dedication and devotion and you being part of it and Scott McInthune being part of it and other guys that I know and respect. I'm super excited to fly the flag and I'm grateful for the gear they sent me. So I'm like legit ice fisherman now.
You look good. You're not as red anymore. Life is good.
He's cooling off a little bit. For mine, it's a mutual friend of ours and outdoor communicator, our good friend Kenny Keezer's new book.
I got mine too.
I'm trying to block the light.
Did you get one, Pat?
No, but I'm going to call him because I'm actually in that book, I understand.
Yes, so are Brandon and I. Chapter 9.
What does your inscription say?
Who, me?
What he wrote? Mine says, to my longtime buddy, Nathan, you are so much cooler than Brandon and such a better fisherman and better looking. I'm proud of your work in the preserving our outdoor heritage. See you on the water.
Yeah, they're different.
But yeah, Brandon, we're in chapter 9, nighttime on Taneycomo.
Okay.
Let me read an excerpt really here. There was only one other boat in the area, captained by guide Blake Harris, with outdoor communicators Brandon Butler and Nathan Shags McLeod, both renowned radio personalities. The pair occasionally sent snide comments towards our boat through the dark, foggy night. Exactly what longtime friends do, especially fishing buddies. Naturally, a few gaffes were returned. So
you know, Kenny really is just salt of the earth dude, and what a good rider. I mean, he's one of the dinosaurs. You know, he made his living as a freelance outdoor rider, and I'm glad to see another book come out of Kenny that kind of chronicles some of those adventures he's been on. You know, he's a treasure, and we're lucky that we've known him and so many of the other guys of that era.
And you can buy it. And he sent me all the information. I'm gonna put that in the show notes too, because it's Venmo and some emails and stuff like that. But you can definitely get yourself a copy, even on Amazon. I believe it's available. But if you want a signed copy, you got to go through Venmo and send him your address on his Facebook page. But totally worth it. Kenny Kisner's My Life Outdoors, 50 years hunting and fishing across America.
I think I'm going to leave the tag on. I think it looks kind of gangster.
I just sent the text to Kenny saying, well, Shags and Brandon are talking about their new book. And I have a picture of you two assholes talking about the new book. And he's been out to North Dakota with me probably 3 or 4 times, sitting in duck boats, been up here hunting the Mississippi River. He's been over on Lake Michigan on the salmon boats. What the hell, Kenny?
Yeah, he's in all those Devil's Lake.
Kenny just pissed me off.
No, Kenny's in all the Devil's Lake ads too. You see him out there all the time.
Oh, that's too funny.
He was with me, that jackwagon.
Well, if we're talking about that, then how come I haven't gotten an invite to go to Devil's Lake with you?
You're just there. Stop your bitching.
But not with you.
We'll go. Wrote that. Yeah, you.
All right, Pat. Everybody else, we'll see you down the trail.
All right, boys.